Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Another edition of Comic Art Live, the fall edition. I hope you've all been having a great time watching these amazing panels with incredible artists. This conversation, no exception. John Suntress here from the Word Balloon podcast. Always happy when Bill Cox asks me to come in and help out on these things. And really happy to have two great guys, two of my favorites, two of your favorites as well, doing an incredible project together for the first time. A series of Dracula graphic novels, the history of Dracula, from Vlad the Impaler all the way to the Bram Stoker era. I would imagine, perhaps beyond. I don't know. They'll tell us. Everybody, say hi to Matt Wagner and Kelley Jones. Good to see you guys.
Hey,
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to talk to you, John. John, you always look like you're in a Dracula setting. You're like in a cave.
Yes, that's the vibe I'm going for.
I like it's like a floating head. It's scary.
It's kind of true. Absolutely, man. You know, I'm good for that Orson Welles.
Yes.
That 70s anthology show he hosted.
Yeah.
Lighting up the cigars, drinking the brandy and everything. Yeah. So 5 days left on this first campaign for Volume 1. Plenty of time to jump in, everybody, but congratulations so far.
Yeah, well. We're very happy with it. You know, we were just talking a little bit earlier about how Kelley and I have been working on this for over a year and a half now. Because we did the whole thing on spec, just out of the sheer love of the material and the fact that we were just very confident of it. But at the same time, we had to sit on it. Like, we couldn't tell anybody about it except for a very chosen few friends, but it was just killing us to not be able to show this off. And finally the doors burst open and we were able to move ahead here with the campaign. And like I said, it's been going great.
Yeah. And in all honesty, I took Matt's idea and script simply to work with Matt. I figured it would find a home somewhere, but I just wanted to do it. It was that good.
Yeah, this is a perfect little opportunity to tell the tale of the very origin of this, and that Kelley and I have known each other for 35 years. Is that right?
Something like that. It's been a long time.
And we'd always intended to do a big, significant project together. And, our paths always just kind of crisscrossed back and forth and never quite lined up. And it was about 2 years ago now, I posted something on Facebook and Kel, gave that echo comment. We really got to do something together someday. And I contacted him. I said, are you serious, man? Because now I have an idea. And it's a pretty big thing. And it's going to take a commitment of, probably about 5 years out of both of us. Are you anywhere near able to align with that? And luckily, he was all on board.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be wiggle room in between the volumes you're planning for to pursue other things? I mean, I'm asking both of you that.
I'm just finishing. All I do is finish the contractual stuff I had before, and not, that's COVID delayed a lot of things. You sign it and then okay, but essentially this is it. This is it for me.
I'm working on a new Grendel series, which called Devil's Crucible, which was the sequel to the last Grendel series, Devil's Odyssey. And luckily, I'm so that's broken up into 3-4 issues series, and I'm done with 8 out of those 12 issues. So I will squeeze those in around Dracula's perimeter. And Dracula's. I mean, Grendel's so familiar to me. It's not. I'm not reinventing the wheel there. So.
Regarding the campaign,
when you mentioned that, we are already. I have the second volume about half written, and Kelley has it about half pencil or a third penciled, I would say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Bill's audience is an art buying audience, and Marcus Way, I see in the chat, was asking if the sketch opportunities are they all gone? Have they all been claimed?
Kelley's have all been claimed. Some of mine are still available, so certainly hop on over there if you're interested in that. They are.
Are all of mine gone, Matt? I thought one was left. Are they all gone?
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Yeah. You can try. You can try and see if Kelley's is still available. There might be one, but otherwise, his have all gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are going to be 8x10, so they will. They'll come in a nice. We have a cool idea with a black envelope and a little cool decoration on it. So it'll pair up. You have to pair it up with one of the printed books. So that's how they'll arrive for you.
Wow.
And when we sat down and tried to figure out how we would divvy that up, I said, Kelley, look, you do capes, because Kelley's so known for those kinetic spectral capes he does so well, and I'll do close-ups. I'll concentrate on fangs and blood, so that's what they are. And if you go and look at the website, there's an example there. Every sketch will be different, but what you're seeing there is kind of a template. It's going to be kind of like that one. It won't be the same sketch.
Okay.
But
I wanted mine black and white with gray tones. It's kind of stuff you can't. I wanted it different from what you'd see in the book. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The link to the Kickstarter campaign, everybody, is in the description below, and it's also in the comments section. So if you need any prompting to get there, those are the ways to get to the Kickstarter. I am curious.
Hang on a second, John. And since your audience is such art buyers too, one of our tiers is we have a portfolio of offset prints of 7 pages from the book that are 7 of Kelley's kind of showiest. I mean, the book is all beautiful top to bottom, but we chose 7 real hard hitters, and they come with there's a caption at the bottom of each page that is plucked from my script for that page. The page is just bare art. There's no word balloons or anything on it, but it has a descriptive line at the bottom based upon my script for that page. And so 7 plates. They come in an envelope that has spot gloss printing on the envelope. That's limited to 300 editions. They'll all be, there's a signed and numbered certificate in there from both Kelley and both of us have signed it. So
classic, man. Great throwback to portfolio.
Yeah, to the days when the sort of comics that we loved growing up and that we wanted to recreate. Those days of when the guys from the studio, Barry Windsor Smith and Mike Kaluta and Bernie Wrightson were all doing, and Jeff Jones were all doing folios that you could buy.
Yeah.
And we even made it 8.5 by 11 to be the same size as Creepy and Eerie,
yeah, I used to buy the Sal Quartuccio stuff, all those. I remember getting a great Marshall Rogers one on Batman. They're just fabulous. I miss those days. I miss that.
I have a Ken or a Brent Anderson Kazar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could see that. And I remember Bendis telling me Mike Gustafson had him for the Justice Machine, his independent comic back in the day.
Yeah.
So there you go. Oh, Avi B says sketches all gone.
Okay.
They're in the chat.
Okay.
So
mine are all gone too. I know Kelley's are probably gone.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't looked on the site today, so could certainly have had a rush. Yep.
Yeah.
Without spoiling, guys, I'm interested because really what I've appreciated about a lot of the interpretations of Dracula over the years is they've imprinted different eras on him. And I wonder, again, without spoiling, when we go from Vlad the Impaler to at least the Bram Stoker era, are we going to see Dracula evolve and try to emulate the time, like, let's say the 1600s or the 7 or 1800s, prior to the Stoker book? You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay. Very crucially, let me point out to all the listeners, viewers, what we're doing here is definitely not another adaptation of the original novel into comic book form. There are a ton of those already. We're doing everything around that. We are taking little clues and little hints from the novel and staying true to them, portraying other aspects of Dracula's history that we don't see, because anybody that's a fan of the novel, and in fact, this, is often reflected in the movies as well, know that he's off stage a whole lot. Like aside in the novel, aside from the beginning opening scenes where Jonathan Harker goes to Transylvania to his castle, once Dracula comes to London, he's hardly on stage at all. And as a kid, reading that, I always wanted more Dracula.
Yeah.
And the book is also an epistolary novel, which means it's told in the form of journals and letters and diaries. And the one voice missing from all of those is Dracula's voice.
Yes.
So we decided to make this his personal journal. This is his history as portrayed by him. So yeah, we will move ahead through the centuries as we get towards the events of the novel itself. But again, we will not be portraying the events in the novel. First one takes place, this first volume, book 1, The Impaler, all takes place in the 15th century. It's all about how he became a vampire. And I was just determined that there had to be some extraordinary way he became a vampire. You know, if he's the most, you know, I argue he's probably the most famous literary character of all time. You know, you've got other very famous literary characters. You know, there's Gatsby, there's any one of Oliver Twist, any one of Dickens's characters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. None of them are just as infiltrated into the worldwide consciousness as Dracula. People in Japan know who Dracula is. People in Africa knows who Dracula is. The far-flung corners of the world, everybody knows the name Dracula, and an image comes to their mind when they hear that. And so I was struck with the attitude of like, all right, it can't just be that he gets bitten by another vampire. That's too ordinary. I have to come up with some extraordinary method that he becomes a vampire, and it is. And the springboard I used for this storyline is, again, a small detail that's in the book. When Van Helsing is outlining to the band of heroes, the British heroes, details about Dracula's history and about vampires in general. One of the things he mentions is that presumably when he was still alive, Dracula attended something called the Scholomance, which is an ancient Romanian legend about a seminary for the dark arts held way up in the mountains on the shores of something called Lake Hermannstadt, which is a fictional lake, that is hosted by Satan himself. And every 7 years, the tenure for the school is 7 years, and every 7 years, Satan takes on 10 students, and he keeps one of them. And so that, I just thought that line is actually in the book twice. It's mentioned twice. And I was like, why, in the entire history of Dracula interpretations, why have I never seen anything done with that? Why has that never been expanded upon? So we did.
I'm envisioning some interesting faculty-student mixers at School for Disciples. That's excellent, man. No, I'm really excited. Kel, you've been showing a lot of great images on social media from the book, and they look great. I know you will take my comparison as a compliment, but it very much it echoes Bernie's Frankenstein.
Sure. I will say the thing that I'm trying to emulate is before you even get to color, it should be satisfying. And the guys that all inspired me, obviously Bernie, but all the guys from that period could finish in black and white, and you can look at their stuff and it's just remarkable. They would think in black and white, and then the color was almost secondary to them in a lot of ways. And you set up for color when you do that much ink. You're setting up for color. For me, the sneaky trick is good composition. So everyone's looking at what you want, and then the colorist sees it and he focuses that way, and no one knows the trick is going on. And that comes from those guys that inspired me, Corbin, and I can go on and on and on. I won't, everyone here knows everybody who I'm talking about. They're all
referencing off Kelly there. That sets us up to talk about our colorist. Yes. Because we're lucky enough to have Jose Villarrubia coloring this for us. And, I've said this in other interviews that my approach to Kelly's work was always that it needed to be brightly colored, not dark and moody. He already gets the darkness, the shadows, the mood, all in that black and white work that he's talking about. It's already there. And you need bright colors to make those shadows kind of pulsate, And so when we approached Jose, it was mainly due to the restoration work Jose's been doing recently for the Bernie's Swamp Thing at DC. And also the restoration work he'd been doing on, Kelly mentioned Corbin, on the Richard Corbin Library for Dark Horse. And so when I told him this and I explained, look, Jose, we think Italian giallo films. Specifically, I pointed to Suspiria by Dario Argento and Black Sabbath by Mario Bava, particularly that one. And anybody that's seen those movies knows they are lit up like a pinball machine. There's neon colors everywhere you look, and it's spooky as hell.
Yeah.
And so that was the approach we took, because we didn't want it to be, all grays, which is what people think of. My co-writer on Sandman Mystery Theater, Steve Siegel, was in town recently and stopped by here for lunch. I took him downstairs and said, "Hey man, I want to show you what I'm working on here, this secret project. It's me and Kelley Jones doing Dracula." And Steve told me later he thought, Dracula? Seen that. And then I showed it to him, and he was like, "Oh, no, I haven't."
Outstanding, man.
Yeah.
Will the graphic novels have a process section, or will it purely be the story? Are you planning a separate volume of process?
There's process pages in the back. There's pencils and inks. Some of Kelly's original sketches from the when we just were cracking the nut on this. Yeah, some process. We also are getting a lot of requests for an artist edition. Speaking of Kelly's beautiful black and white art, and we're definitely, we have that in our mind for sure. We're definitely going to attempt to make that happen.
Have either of you had the artist edition treatment?
Kelly has with Graffiti did his Batman.
I've had Graffiti did Batman, and they did Dead Man.
Oh, they did Dead Man too? I don't
know. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I had all the art. So
okay. Okay. That makes it easy.
Yeah, it makes it easy.
King Sport Cal, Matt says, thank you for Grendel. It awed me as a child and still continues to do so to this day.
Oh, well, that's a good segue too, because at the very end of this month, I have a new big Grendel book coming out, which is my retelling of the original Hunter Rose story arc, Devil by the Deed. For the 40th anniversary, which was just last year, I was looking to do something special to honor that. And when I went back and looked at Devil by the Deed, even I was surprised to learn it's only 37 pages long. For the sort of legacy that had launched, literally decades of material and dozens of characters and thousands of pages of story. That seemed kind of shockingly brief. So I approached Dark Horse and said, look, let me do what I want to call the Master's Edition of Devil by the Deed. And so I completely redrew it from top to bottom.
Wow.
It's still told in the same fashion as if you're reading with blocks of text, as if you're reading Christine Sparr's book about Hunter Rose. But it's 121 pages now of all brand new art, all colored in the black, white, and red palette that has since kind of become Hunter Rose's motif by my son, Brennan Wagner. And that ships to stores on the 22nd of this month. It looks phenomenal. We are super proud of it. There's a standard edition and a limited signed and numbered edition as well.
Kel, traditionally, DC usually keeps you busy this time of year with Halloween and the like.
They do.
And so what did they have you doing this year?
I had done, of all things, a Joker as Dracula short story in Harley and Poison Ivy, and they published I'd done about 10 years ago a fill-in for Batman, and it just got for editorial changes, story change, whatever. And
there was a Batman story by you in the drawer?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they had asked for a reprint of a series I did in the 08. Around 08, I did one called Gotham After Midnight. So they're doing a deluxe edition of that. And they said, do you have anything like extra stuff or whatever? And I said, well, I have odds and ends. I had these end papers I had done that was going to go into the original reprint. But, that whole thing, again, people leave, art directors come, that whole thing. And I said, but I do have, I don't know, it's a horror story. It's a one-shot horror story. And with Batman, and they completely forgot about it. So I sent them, I had the scans of it still on my computer, and I sent it to them, and they came right back and said, we're going to publish this.
Who wrote that one, Cal?
Oh, I can't remember.
Wow.
I can't remember. So anyway, they said, we want to put that in the Gotham After Midnight. And they wanted to run it colored and black and fully colored and then fully black and white.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a big book because the Gotham After Midnight's like 12 issues. So so they did that. And then Ben Mears, who's doing Brave and the Bold, said, well, that's only for the people in there. I'm going to run it in Brave and the Bold too. So he ran it in issue 5 of Brave and the Bold. And which fit perfectly for their Halloween season, and I didn't have to draw anything. So
yeah,
yeah,
but lets you free to be Draculized.
Right. I've only have a couple things like that. I did a 20-page Pirates of the Caribbean years ago in this very illustrative style, where it was all mermaids, evil, that one, and that didn't get published. Disney had a big.
I am just having trouble processing this, that you do these stories that don't get published.
Yeah, I really killed myself.
What the hell is wrong with people?
And Disney had some kind of shakeup there, as they do all the time, it seems anymore. So it didn't get published. It's one of those things. One of these days I'll take it out and just put it on Facebook or Twitter and just show each page of it. I mean, what's Disney going to do, right? They don't sue anybody, right, Matt? They don't. But I'll just show it because it was a very labor-intensive gig. I did it in this very illustrative style to kind of match how it was written. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, that's about it. I think everything else has been pretty much is out there.
People are excited for the Devil by the Deed coming out for Thanksgiving. Jiku Rojo wants to know, for both of you, have either of you seen Coppola's Dracula? He saw it, loved the visuals. Yeah, I can't wait to hear all this. But he wasn't pulled into the story or over the top. He said Hopkins and subpar Keanu Reeves acting kind of, and of course Oldman played Dracula in that. Gary Oldman.
Okay, well, Kelly knows my rant about this because I have this incredible love-hate relationship, much as what that fella just described with that film, in that I think the casting is absolute dog shit throughout that entire film. I think Oldman's terrible. I think Hopkins is terrible. Keanu's laughable. Winona's terrible. They're all terrible. And yet I love the filmmaking. I love the visuals. I love Coppola's hard adherence to old school. We're not going to use any CGI. We're going to use all old school practical effects and camera tricks and everything. And there's some amazing cinema in that. But just missed the boat with, I mean, you can't tell what Hopkins is supposed to be. Half the time he's serious, half the time he's, and it's only on the, I don't know, 6th or 7th viewing of that I realized, I think what you're supposed to assume is that he is syphilitic, that he has syphilis. Because the first time you see him, he's talking about syphilis, and he lets a bat bite him in the theater round where he's giving a lecture to other medical students, which would account for his his crazy drastic mood swings. But Keanu's come and go British accent is just rotten. Winona never can quite let herself go to be the kind of wanton bitch that they're trying to portray her at the end there. And Hopkins is just never scary. He's got 2 good moments in the film where he licks the blood off the razor and where he gives that evil laugh when Harker starts to flip out when he gives the baby to the brides to feast upon. As soon as he gets to London, he's this emo foppish, not scary at all.
I think too, from what I've read about that film, Coppola had to go by what Winona wanted for casting, and that was
no, it was the other way around. It was what the studio wanted. She was dating Johnny Depp at the time, and she wanted Johnny Depp to play Harker, and Depp would have been a lot better.
It got all convoluted in that, and then it became more style over substance. I mean, I'll say that's one where I sit down to watch it, and I think Matt nailed it. I just love all of the.
Dude, every time I watch it, I think maybe it'll be better this time.
It never is glorious. And then they open their mouths, and you just go, "This, it's killing it every time." And then it kind of gives you hope. It does a few things. And you go, "Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty."
Yeah,
and then
Lucy's 3 suitors are all pretty spot on what they're supposed to be. The brides, are super sexy and scary in the castle. I love how
they nail the brides. I actually would have liked it to just be the brides.
Yeah.
That would have been the film to me.
I love how the castle is like on the edge of reality. Things drip up and mice run upside down on the ceiling, and it's not. It's kind of the doorway between one world and another. That's terrific. But here's what really kills me is we were talking about Depp. Winona Ryder wanted Johnny Depp to be Harker, and he would have been a lot better, especially when you look at him playing Ichabod Crane in Burton's Sleepy Hollow. The final casting for Dracula himself was down between Gary Oldman and Gabriel Byrne. And Gabriel Byrne was going through a messy divorce at the time and couldn't leave. Couldn't leave LA. And so he couldn't take the part. But just imagine the difference. Gabriel Byrne would have been much more majestic, much more ferocious, much more intimidating.
Yeah.
And he's a beautiful
London there. When he gets to London there with that, curly man hairdo and the little floppy mustache, it's just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And then I always point to the scene where, after Harker escapes the castle, Mina travels to Romania and gets married to him, even though she's been having this affair with Dracula. And Dracula in like half beast form is raging and tears are just pouring down his face. And I'm just like, Dracula doesn't weep. Dracula never weeps.
No.
So, as you can tell, love-hate relationship with that movie for me.
No, that is.
And in fact, Kelly and I, we recently did a podcast on our top 5 favorite Dracula movies of all time. And there's so many, like every part of them, everyone has something that's particularly good. And none of them are quite right for me, which is what led to this project, which is what led to, look, the only way I'm going to get this version of Dracula I want, and I think Kelly wants to, is if we do it ourselves.
No, the only thing I would want as an extra, Matt's now going to be surprised by this in our book. There's only one thing I want that's an extra. And Matt's now going to make in the face. Matt and I both like to cook. Matt is chef level. I'm probably diner level. But what I want Matt to do, because it's mentioned all the time in Stoker, is chicken paprikash. So I just want him to put his recipe.
Yep.
Yeah, he needs to just put the recipe from that time, because Harker's eating it all the time, and he says he loves it. But when he's finally finished with his trip, he's never going to eat it again, because that's all he's getting.
Yeah.
So
Mina says she can't tolerate garlic, which makes her not the girl for me.
Yeah. So I just want Matt's authentic Transylvanian paprikash.
I'm pretty sure in Leslie Klinger's new annotated Dracula, in some of the sidebar notes, he has a traditional recipe for it.
Okay.
I got to go check that again, but I'm pretty sure it's there.
It just be there. Just a party. Thank you very much. See you next year.
It's a great idea, man.
I love it. I think that's great. Now, Dave McPherson is asking you, Matt, but I open it to Kelly as well. What your guys' take is on Werner Herzog's Nosferatu. Was that the Kinski one? Was that Klaus Kinski? Or
that's one with Kinski. Yeah.
I love it. From the early 80s. Yeah. That's a great movie. I agree.
Both versions of Nosferatu are tremendous.
I think the sound. I think he's one of those guys where he had said everything kind of fell into place for that too.
Yep.
He was over at his friend's house, who was Popelvoll, the famous German music. And so the theme you hear, which is just chilling and wonderful, was his friend saying, "Oh, I just broke up with this girl. Listen to this." And he says, that's not a breakup. That's for my Dracula movie.
Yeah.
And so he took it from him, and he says, okay, fine. There's just so many happy accidents in that he actually went and walked filmed in the area that Stoker's talking about. Is great. But everything worked. That's a movie that everything works.
And this,
I always wanted Nosferatu 2, because he rides off at the end as the new,
as the new Dracula. Yeah.
So I wanted Nosferatu 2, and I didn't get that.
Nosferatu 2.
Yeah.
This bears mentioning that filmmaker Robert Eggers, who of course very famous for The Witch and The Lighthouse and The Northman. If anybody has not seen The Northman,
wow, I love it.
It is like a living piece of metal come to life.
Yes, I love it.
He has just wrapped production on his remake of Nosferatu. And boy, if anybody can pull it off, I think that guy can. So I'm just on pins and needles to see that.
Me too.
Was the Willem Dafoe movie with
Shadow the Vampire. That's
the
a lot of fun. Yeah, there's a lot of good performances in that.
Oh my God,
John Malkovich as F.W. Murnau is tremendous.
And
all the details feel very, very right. In regards to
Shrek when he's just kind of making those moves.
Well, I like that he's eating the crew.
He's eating the crew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddie Izzard is really great in it. No,
they're expendable, right?
Yeah, you can always get more people to lighten film. Yeah.
No, that's excellent, man. Rob agrees that Northman was amazing. The scene he in the barrow was insane.
Yep.
Very cool. Oh my God, you guys are killing me.
Well, the end, you have these two naked Vikings fighting to the death on the precipice of hell.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get, you need a metal album just shrieking in the background while you're watching that one.
Yeah, Molly Hatchet needed that back in the 80s for one of their album covers. I hear you. Now, Kel, you're surrounded by great iconography. And it's funny because there's the contrast between the Frankenstein monster and Dracula, because, and it's funny, we mentioned the Coppola Dracula movie, and I forget who directed the De Niro Frankenstein.
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, Branagh.
Oh, Branagh, of course. Yeah. Now,
it's awful too.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, man, because most of the time with the Frankenstein monster, they'll try to make it their own. They'll deviate from that Glenn Strange or Boris Karloff kind of iconography. But I think you need that for the Frankenstein monster, that basic look that's behind Kel. Whereas Dracula really can be very interpretive and be a bunch of other things.
The problem is that's intellectual property for Universal.
Yeah,
that look.
Oh, I know.
You can't duplicate that look. Yeah,
sure. Well, but
there's been really good there was a really good one that of all people, I want to say Hallmark or somebody did it, but it was a
TV movie with
Alec Newman. Alec Newman was in it, and
that's not the one I'm thinking of. Then
I don't know.
Yeah, Alec Newman did it, and it was in 2003, 2004, and it was a miniseries, and it was quite good. William Hurt was in it.
I don't know that. I'll have to look that up.
Luke Goss was the monster, and it was quite well done. To me, they nailed it, and it looked like Wrightson's interpretation. The monster was excellent, and he was.
And isn't Guillermo del Toro doing Frankenstein?
I believe so.
I think that's moved into production.
Has it got to that point? I know he's always wanted to. I didn't know where it was at.
Yeah. That sounds cool. That would be amazing. I liked that, and I know they unfortunately had to cancel it because the actor, I want to see Jonathan Majors, 3-name guy, was having substance issues, and they would make him pee in a cup every week, and unfortunately, he didn't pass, so they canceled it. But it was a Dracula show that was set around the turn of the century, and it was a very steampunk as far as the technology.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He was a British actor. He's quite good.
He's in Match Point, the Woody Allen film.
Yeah.
Jonathan something major.
Jonathan Rhys-Davies, isn't it?
Yes, Jonathan Rhys-Davies.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah.
He's actually quite excellent. And I think he did Frankenstein for Danny Boyle on stage, and they would show that. You could go to any theater and they would just show it. And I'm thinking it's him. I could be wrong, but he and Benedict Cumberbatch would switch roles every night.
No, that was
who was that?
Johnny Lee Miller.
Lee Miller, another 3-name guy. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. And that was
they would switch the roles back and forth night after night. One would play the doctor, one would play the monster.
And they were both excellent. Wow. I've seen both, and you'd think, this was the best one. Then you see the other one, you go, no, that's pretty damn good too.
And I just sent this to Kelly the other day. My son found this. There's a new Turkish film coming out soon called Creature that is set there, but it looks straight up Frankenstein, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Benjamin Loudley wants you to know, Kel, he just got his Dead Man Gallery edition a couple days ago. So
is that the graffiti one, dude?
Yeah, that's the graffiti one. Yeah, that they did a really remarkable job. Bob Chapman
God's always been a class act.
Absolutely. Oh no, and the greatest dead dog parties post San Diego every year. Mark is right. It's Jonathan Rhys Meyers is who did that NBC Dracula. Yeah. So God, I just remember that one scene. Didn't even involve Dracula, where everyone's holding like a light bulb in their hand and they're all illuminated.
Yeah.
And it's just again this great like kind of steampunk technology.
Yeah.
I had a lot of hope for that show, unfortunately.
Yeah.
David McPherson says one of my favorite Dracula movies was with Madden, was Guy Madden's ballet film Dracula.
And I have never seen that one. Yeah, that's a very well thought of film. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Of course, Frank Langella back in '79, both the stage.
There's a lot of good stuff in the Langella film. And unfortunately, he's got that '80s blow dried coif, which kind of like takes you out of the moment. Believe me.
I hear you, man.
But his portrayal is pretty good, even though that's based more on the stage play than it is on the novel.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to let the chat know that really, guys, we can talk Dracula, the current Kickstarter project. 5 days left. Again, the link is at the bottom. But if you do have other questions about Batman, Deadman, I mean, anything you guys want to talk about, Grendel, Mage, these are the guys, and they're here for you. So, I mean, I talk to them all the time. It's fun for me to get the chance to talk to these guys, but we want to give you a chance to ask some questions as well.
Yeah, sure. Open it up. We'll take any questions.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's great, and man, I'm very excited for all the Grendel that's coming up, man. I love it, and Hunter Rose Skull still sitting in Bruce's Batcave.
Of course, it is.
I love it. I also love. I mean, truly, both of you, your interpretations of Batman so different, both visually and story wise too. But it's I'm glad that Kel gets the shot. I wish you'd get more opportunities, Matt, to come back to the character if you'd want.
That's what you just said there about our two versions of Dracula. It's a good illustration of why we mesh so well together in this instance. We both have very distinctive views of how to portray it, and yet we both love each other's way of doing it.
I wanted to meet him because of his Batman. I had been a fan of Grendel, fan of Mage, and then I just loved his Batman because it was everything that I would not know how to do. He was doing it. The short ears and the short cape, and it looked perfect. And
those early versions, my Batman was always, I described it as Adam West if he were cool.
Yeah, if he were cool. And Matt was doing just knockout stuff with the lighting and the atmosphere, and it was like perfect Batman to me. So normally when you do these things, you're trying to stay in your own view of it and whatever. And it was starting to influence me because I kept looking at it going, this is really, really good. Maybe I'm doing this wrong, because I just like how he had it. But that's why I wanted to meet him, because he was really making a strong visual statement with it. And that's what I was looking for. He wasn't just going in and knocking it out and saying, I'll let Batman, the character, sell it. He was going in there like he had invented Batman. And I liked that a lot.
Well, and a lot of the writing adapted from those early detective 6-page stories, whatever they were. Mm-hmm. And that's also what I've loved, Matt, about your Sandman Mystery Theater. The same thing. And and it's even more so in the Sandman that it is that pre-superhero period of the DC universe.
Yeah, I love those. The early superhero comics from DC, you could tell are still very much influenced by the pulp traditions. So those characters seem more like pulp characters than what became the flamboyant, multicolored superheroes. And not only that, the tropes weren't set yet. They were still just kind of figuring this shit out as they went along. Like, for instance, in Sandman Mystery Theater, I went back and reread the first, I don't know, probably half a dozen original appearances of Wesley Dodds and the Sandman. And in the very first adventure, people who have read Mystery Theater know that, when Wesley goes out at night, it's mainly because he's haunted by some aspect of Morpheus, of Neil Gaiman's dream character, who is magically imprisoned at that point. And so aspects of his persona are bleeding into the world and affecting people in different ways. And in Wesley's case, it causes him to go out and fight crime and put on a mask that kind of emulates Morpheus's dream helmet, And And so there's a disconnect there. You know, he actually, it's not just that he's an alter ego. He becomes a different character when he puts on that mask. So he has this little effigy of himself that he tucks into bed at night when he goes out to be the Sandman. And he says, "Good night, Mr. Wesley Dodds." That is in the first Golden Age adventure.
Yeah. Crazy.
And, you know, I read this and there's this panel of him tucking this little doll into bed and saying good night. And I was like, boy, got to keep that shit because that is really weird and cool, you know?
That's excellent.
And the other cool thing was, unlike most other superheroes of the day, he had a girlfriend who knew his secret identity, who knew he was the Sandman. You know, I have to think that was directly influenced by the Shadow radio show that it was Margot Lane, you know.
Margot Lane and Lamont Cranston.
Who Lamont Cranston was, yeah.
Yeah.
But that seemed unique to me, and that too was a springboard for, you know, kind of the entire theme of the series was their relationship, you know.
Well, and your Shadow stories are incredible as well. Kel, ever, you know, again, you know, Batman comes from the Shadow origins and all. Ever do any Shadow stories?
I've done covers for the Shadow.
I've done a couple covers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was that for the Andy Helfer editorial period, or
no? That was later when I think Dynamite was.
Dynamite had it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I did Dynamite stuff.
Yeah, it was cool when I did them. I had always wanted to do it when DC was, you know, at that time, but it was nice that after I did it, I got the people who do the Shadow Society, who are big, and they got a hold of me saying how much they like those, because I you know, I was kind of doing something like this huge close-up of him. I love his nose.
Well, yeah, my God, it's
yeah.
half his face.
All the skulls, because like Matt says, I'm a big pulp guy. My Batman came from the 40s. That's what I was looking at too. I wanted a real 40s feel. And so anything pulp, I instantly am attracted to. I like that style of storytelling. I like that anything can happen. And I like when it does, it's usually pretty exploitive. I dig all that stuff.
Kelly always describes what my writing is as literary pulp, to which I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. And I love pulp stuff. I have a huge collection of old pulp magazines, and all the authors, when they put all their stuff in books, and, you know, Hugh Cave and all these great pulp writers. I find it so exciting, even now when I'm reading them, because they're just page turners. And I know it was to do anything to get your buck there. It's carnival hawking type of book writing, you know, story writing. These guys are just saying, come here, you're going to see this, you're going to see that, you know, and you do. It's just wonderful.
Penny a word.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm sorry, Matt, did I step on you?
No, I said a penny a word. That was
yes, literally a penny a word.
Obviously, you know, Lester Dent, who wrote the bulk of the Doc Savage stories, and Walter Gibson, who wrote the Shadow stories. They got paid a better rate than that, but generally it was a penny a word.
Yep. No, and all those great pulp covers, those beautifully painted.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Yep.
Yeah. You know,
there was a really nice oversized book of pulp art that came out just last year. What it's called, but it's one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. There've been other collections over the years, but this one, the reproductions are stellar.
Yeah.
HR says Ed Cartier's Shadow. Sure.
Oh yeah, Cartier's Shadow's fantastic.
Yeah, I love Cartier. I love his science fiction. I love his horror. I love everything he does.
And even he does especially this creeps into his science fiction stuff, and he's done some fantasy stuff too. There's a certain cartoony goofishness to it sometimes, you know.
There's a great by Groff Conklin, the editor, famous editor, and in the late 40s or something, he did best science fiction years, best something like it was one of these. But in it, I didn't know it. I bought this thing. I think it's great. They have all these Ed Cartier designs in color, like inked and colored, and they're all his aliens and all his heroes and all this. And it's what Matt said. They're kind of cartoony, but they're brilliant.
I'm with you, man. No, I was really happy that, and I don't think he does it anymore. When Anthony Tolan was representing a bunch of those great Doc Savages and Shadows and stuff.
I think he finished the Shadow and might have finished Doc Savage as well.
Well, that could be right. That could be why as well.
Yeah.
But
he did other ones. He did like the Black Bat, and I think the Phantom Detective, and One thing I will say is when you read some of those other, like the Black Bat, etc., there's a reason that Lester Dent and Walter Gibson were kind of the top of their field. They were really kind of the best writers, along with Burroughs,
Well, I always like Seabury Quinn's Jules de Grandin, because those go off the rails all the time, and they're just nuts, but they're so fun. Every time I read one, I go, this is excellent. I can see why it was a popular character, and he was always on the cover of stuff, because you never knew what you'd get with Seabury Quinn, And he was I think he edited a magazine on buying coffins or mortuary stuff or something. That was his day job. And at night he wrote this whacked stuff. And I thought, man, he's perfect for comics.
That's awesome. And much like what you guys are doing with Dracula, I think that a lot of modern people can take the bones of a lot of great pulp stories and heroes and really, literally, I'm not saying get rid of the original material, but rather than those white savior tropes or, the natives really don't know what they're doing and are really portrayed in very unfashionable ways. A good friend of mine, Ron V, a wonderful DC writer currently, did that with his book. And I think I might have mentioned it to you guys in our previous conversation. Yeah. These Savage Shores, where an Elizabethan vampire goes to India thinking, all right, I'm going to clean up here, and is in for a rude awakening.
Yeah.
But even like one of my favorite pulp characters is Robert Howard's Sailor Costigan. Yeah. He's a merchant marine boxer. I'm a big boxing fan, and he's going from port to port fighting, the toughest guy in whatever port the ship landed in and stuff. And it's like there's a real opportunity there to tell modern stories.
The world was a much bigger place then, and it was so far away, and so pulps fulfilled that thing.
That sense of adventure,
yeah, it was, and they really, because when you read it. A lot of these things, you find that, yes, there's some that, like Matt said, you can see why the cream rose to the top, but you'll find things that are just wonderful that you didn't. There's a great vampire story called Morgenstrom, and it's by Hugh Cave, and it is so original in its depiction of vampires that it's
way spookier than anything else at the time.
Way spookier, and it's modern, the modern interpretation of them, where they move really quick and all that stuff. He was doing that in 1931 or something. How fast they moved.
Kel turned me onto that story. I had never.
Yeah, it's terrific, and it always stuck with me that it was better than just this guy writing for a 25-cent pulp. During Depression era, it was like, man, somebody put some thought into this. But there's a number of these really cool little stories you'll come across, and that could be expanded, like you just said. You could do this.
But John, you were talking about approaching these pulp characters with a contemporary viewpoint, but not
sensitivity to
not twisting them into what they weren't.
Yeah,
but having a little more sensitivity. I wrote the Zorro comic for almost 4 years for Dynamite, and I always point to one of my favorite versions of Zorro is the original, The Mark of Zorro, starring Douglas Fairbanks, and the very first scene is set in a roadhouse, a tavern, and there's this big blustery Sergeant Gonzalez, who's, railing about, what he'll do if he ever gets his hands on Zorro. Yeah. And then Zorro kind of sneaks in the back, and, he comes in with his, his cape like this.
Very Dracula.
Batman stole it off him. And when he goes like this, and he's huffing on a cigarette. He's like rakishly huffing. I mean, hardcore on a cigarette, just puff, 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 And of course, you're not going to do that today. But,
mentioning Zorro, Matt, I stumbled on YouTube on that early 70s Alain Delon.
Yeah.
With
the goofy theme song.
Yeah, here's to being free.
Here's to being free. It's like mariachi theme song.
But it's like a sequel to the original Zorro because it's another story. And I remember watching that on CBS movie night of the week 40 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. But yeah, I was surprised. And it's like, oh my God, this is hilarious. It was really long sword fight at the end in a good way.
Yep.
Really, really elaborate sword fight. Cal, I assume this is either Bill or Kazra that we're asking, is there any chance that you are an admirer of Francisco Goya's art.
Yes, I love it. Yes, I do. He's one of the guys who can get a nightmare on canvas.
Yep.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, we're winding down, everybody. So as we are, I will remind you again that there's 5 days left in the Kickstarter campaign, and you can see it in the chat, and you can also see it in the description below. But if you haven't taken advantage of this, it's going to be 4 volumes. This is volume 1, and we're going right to the beginning with when Vlad the Impaler became a vampire. And it's going to be great. These guys really get it. I'm sure you've seen on Instagram and Facebook the versions of Kelley's art that he's put out there, the various panels. And these are 2 guys. You can tell from the conversation how serious they are about doing Dracula the attention and respect.
The right way.
Yeah. So that's great. Josh Flanders says, Matt, he's looking forward to seeing you at OAX. Let's see. Mike Weingart says, hi, Kelley. Finally got here. Haven't seen you since Shortbox Convention.
I would tell anyone, go. Then when they do one of those, go. They're pure comics. They're just undiluted, pure old
Where's
comics.
that at, Kel?
That was in Santa Clara. So in a beautiful venue at the Hyatt there. And man, you go in there. The best thing about it is when they open the doors, after they got everybody was set up and they open the doors and you go in there, you just this waft of old comic smell. And it was like all the vendors are there, and it's just, few artists and stuff like that, but it was all the good stuff. It was really tough for me not to get up and wander around and just go look at this stuff, because I came out of there buying a lot of crap. So, but it was great. I highly recommend Shortbox.
Perfume of the imagination.
Oh, it was wonderful.
That sounds great, man.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Matt, looking forward to the new Grendel product coming around Thanksgiving.
22nd of November.
There you go. And Kel, keep it up, man. You're killing it.
Thank you.
Very happy that there is the artist editions of Dead Man and Red Rain and the like and everything. And that's great to see. So thanks, guys. As always, wonderful conversation. I appreciate it.
Again, 5 more days for the Kickstarter. Everybody go check it out. We still got lots of stuff you can pick up.
And I'll be talking here at the festival tomorrow with Howard Chaykin.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
Always good to talk to Howard.
He just finished a crowdfunding project of his own. So
indeed. Cool. We'll be discussing that. Plus, he's got a great seminar he's doing with Mark Wade at UCLA next Saturday. Oh. So we'll talk about that and more. But there's still more great programming today on Comics Art Live. So stay tuned until the next panel. Everybody take care. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.